Good evening and welcome to today's edition of hashtag the Vickie Talks. I had wanted to talk about parenting today, but there's really big news coming out of Sierra Leone that requires context and And so today I will be talking about Sierra Leone's democracy and the recent ruling that the upcoming 2023 elections in June will be held not on a constituency breakdown, but using proportional representation. First of all, I just want to share that if you don't know, when I was in college, my first degree was in political science. I thought that I would go into government service like my mom. I ended up not going, but spent a lot reading on democracy, democratization, and actually wrote my thesis on Sierra Leone. And over the past 10 or so years, I've been keenly following the democratization process, or the process of making Sierra Leone a better democracy, the consolidation of peace and the consolidation of democracy in Sierra Leone. Why? Because I'm from there. 2, because I'm a student of political science. And 3, because like most of you, I believe that democracy is the best condition or political system for sustainable development and for people to be able to self-actualize. So a bit of background for people who don't know what the situation in Sierra Leone. So right after the end of the war in Sierra Leone, the way that we did elections is using a system of proportional representation, or PR for short. That means that we did not have constituencies. As you know, during the war, there was a lot of, there was internal displacement. People moved from different parts of the country to other parts of the country, and we've been just deso. So they chose PR as a form of, as a political system or as a voting system. After the 2012 election, after the 2002 election, so that's what we did then, right after peace. And then now we are under a system of, since then we've been using constituencies and wards, meaning that they do censuses, and when they do the census, they create constituencies and wards based on the amount of people living in each particular region, within a district, within the different areas of Sierra Leone. Last December, 2 Decembers ago actually, December 2021, Sierra Leone conducted a national census. The census was an attempt to count midterm census, so meaning that the one before that had been 5 years prior, because every 10 years is when we do like the big census, and then in the middle we do a midterm census. So Statistics Sierra Leone conducted a midterm census in December 2021, and they announced key issues from that census is that a lot of people weren't counted. A lot of people tried to reach out to Statistics Sierra Leone to let them know that they weren't counted, and they just weren't included in the figures. What we noticed from the 2021 midterm census is that areas where you had areas that were predominantly who historically vote for the current administration, who is in government, saw an increase in their population, and there was a dramatic decrease in, let's say, regions that we know are historically vote for the opposition. So a key issue was with the counting of people in Freetown, which is the capital city of Sierra Leone. According to the current census, basically the 2021 census, the size of the city decreased in 5 years. The number of people there decreased. I looked at the numbers myself, and I found myself and a lot of other people found discrepancies between what the 2021 census says is the population in Freetown versus other existing data like the city data, and also data from the current Ministry of Education's counting of students who are currently receiving stipends to under the government's free quality education program. According to the current 2021 census, there are only about 100,000 children in Freetown, according to the current 2021 census. But according to the Ministry of Education's student data, there are about 400,000. So that's like one of the major issues. Anyway, so this is still the official data though, even though it may be botched, it's the official data. And so according to this, when you have this new statistical data, you're supposed to then do what they call creating new boundaries or boundary delimitation for the constituencies. So it either is you're changing the boundaries. In the US, they call it gerrymandering, where based on how many people are in a place, you're saying, okay, this particular constituency is now from here to here, or you're dividing constituencies into two, or you're creating, basically you're creating new constituencies. Statistics Sierra Leone, I guess, announced that they weren't going to be able to do the boundary delimitation in time for the upcoming June 2023 election. And then the Electoral Commission said that they had a meeting with the president, and they reported to the president that they were not going to be able to do the boundary delimitation to create constituencies based on the existing census, the one that's botched from December 2021. And so as a result, the president told the Electoral Commission that because we don't have enough time to do the boundary delimitation, let's just change from using the different constituencies and vote by proportional representation. I'm not going to get into what proportional representation is, but in summary, it means that the outcome often is that you can get a more diverse body of representation in parliament, because it's not just it's not a winner take all, right? It's not a winner take all system, which is it's not like, so usually the only person who gets to go to parliament is the one person that wins the majority of the votes, right? With proportional representation, maybe the first two people in that particular district or that particular region could go, even if like both of them don't win. More than one person can go from the same region, depending on the size of that particular region. So the Electoral Commission put out an announcement to say that it was based on the president's advice, they were going to move to proportional representation for the upcoming election. The problem with this is that by the time they made this announcement, they had already announced the dates for the election. And today the Supreme Court made a judgment about a case that was brought to them on PR. So a group of lawyers challenged the Electoral Commission's decision to move to proportional representation. And they took it to the Supreme Court of Sierra Leone, and they said, can you tell us, one, if the president has the rights, the constitutional rights, to single-handedly change the voting system, and two, if according to the Constitution, we have the conditions that need to exist for us to be able to use PR. proportional representation. The Supreme Court started looking at this first week in January, and today they basically announced two things. Yes, they said that it's within the president's constitutional right to advise that the Electoral Commission change to proportional representation, and two, that the conditions exist for us to change to proportional representation. Now, in Sierra Leone today, there are two groups of people. There are groups of people who are celebrating because they believe that the decision to change to PR, one, offers better opportunity for political representation for the people. There are other people who are celebrating because it means that the president, therefore the political party that they support, has won this case. There are other people who are upset because they feel like they do not agree with the decision that the Supreme Court has made, because they feel like there's not the conditions that needed to exist for us to move to PR do not exist, and they feel like this is kind of like taking us back to a time that was more undemocratic. There are people who feel like they've lost all faith in the judiciary. There are people who feel, there are lots of like extremes, right? I've been paying attention to Sierra Leone's political development for a really long time. And so I wanted to have this conversation to young people who maybe may not necessarily have all the facts. If you feel like this is some kind of end of democracy in Sierra Leone, it is not. It is not the end of democracy. The thing about democracy is that it's like a living thing, right? And you never really arrive at it. It's just an onward and continuous process. Countries can take actions that make them more democratic. Countries can take actions that make them less democratic. But it's not the end of democracy. I want to remind people about what happened during Ebola when another Supreme Court decision was handed down. This was when President Nkrumah changed his VP and sacked Samsumana. At the time, the Supreme Court ruled that the president had supreme authority and that he could legally remove his vice president as and when he sees fit. And I remember at the time myself, and a lot of people felt like that created a slippery slope that gave the executive a lot of power. That rings through again today. There are people who remember also when the 2015 census was done, there were new constituencies that were created, if you ask me, and I also said at the time, that were created to give the APC a upper hand in the parliament. That's a fact, okay? And what's happening here today is almost like the exact mirroring of what happened then. And I feel like a lot of people at the time thought that, like, because of all the things that APC had done, that they would never therefore lose power. And then what happened? The people went to the polls and they lost power anyway. People voted how they voted. They elected a new president. And when the new government came in, they forcefully took away they forcefully removed people from parliament, basically. People who had won seats due to the gerrymandering and the redistricting from that previous census, they reduced it. They just made the decision to take people's MP seats away, and they gave them to the people who had lost, who are now SLPP, people. And that's how we have now a parliament that, where the existing administration went from, in 2018 when we voted, the APC had more parliamentarians. Today they don't. So what I'm trying to say to you is that, like, our democracy is still incredibly young. It's still teething. And this is just what it is. But it's not dead. right? I don't want us to be extremists, because when we are extremists about decisions that happen, it blinds us completely. It is not a zero-sum game, in the sense that just because this decision has been made, democracy is dead and all is lost. PR does not, PR does not stop you from voting for who you want to vote for. PR does not stop you from still choosing your elected representatives. And the other thing is, no matter which way you fall right now on this decision, I promise you, in the next decade, you're going to be on the other side. Because when the opposition gets back in power, what are they going to do? They're going to also make sure that the conditions that exist favor them. And this is the state of our democracy. It's one where we continue to empower people and weaken our institutions. For me, I don't think proportional representation is bad. What made me uncomfortable, and what still makes me uncomfortable, is the manner in which we are headed towards it, the manner in which we've arrived here. How does PR increase the odds for SLPP? Well, if you're looking at the current the 2021 data, the whatever is going to be created in terms of the amount of representation that every district is going to have is going to be based on the number of people in each district. So if you've undercounted the number of people in Freetown, which historically votes APC, and given more people in districts that are historically voting SLPP, you are therefore, when you do PR, you've de facto given SLPP the upper hand. Does it mean that it'll turn out that way? I don't know. But that's what people have concerns about, because if the census is flawed and you allocate parliamentary seats based on a flawed census that has undercounted in opposition strongholds but overcounted in the current government strongholds, then you've kind of given them the upper hand. And that's the issue. No, every time I come live, my nose starts to itch. So this is my message to Sierra Leoneans at home and abroad. Democracy doesn't start or end with elections. It's just one particular process. Should APC start improving it? No, it's not a question of APC people having, it's about having a statistics office that can count people properly, right? That isn't swayed by politics. It's about having institutions that function beyond, that have independence, right? If how you're counting the people depends on who's in government, what are we doing? In fact, it's incredibly troubling for national development if we're overcounting and allocating resources based on the numbers in different regions that are flawed. If you get 1 million people in Afriton, but you say now 600,000 people that you get, and that number that you get for use for create budgets for how many schools to build, how many hospitals to build, how many policemen there for Okudi, all of these things, all of these resources that are provided by the government are done based on how many people live in an area. So if you keep playing with those numbers, how are you effectively providing services? One thing that when I worked for the Directorate of Science and Technology, one of the pillars of that organization was data for decision making. Well, if your data is flawed, then your decision making is flawed. And regardless of how you feel about PR, the 2021 census data is flawed. I don't want stars per $1. You can cash app me $100 or $200. It's cash app Vickie Remoe. No, me no want $1. I beg, keep your stars. If you really feel strongly, like dash me big money. Don't bring $1 here, please. Don't insult my intelligence. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, yes, does the current situation and decision by the Supreme Court favor the existing government? Absolutely. But have we gone to a place before where, is this history repeating itself? Yes. We've been here before where we went to elections and everything favored the government and the government still lost. And that's how we have a new administration. So I don't think people should feel like all is lost. I don't feel people should feel like all is lost as well. And this is the thing. So long as there's peace and there's stability, we all have another day to participate in the democratic process. We all have another day to exercise our rights as citizens. We all have another day to participate in the strengthening of our democracy. Today, you might feel like that opportunity is less so, but it doesn't mean that tomorrow it will continue to be less so. Sierra Leone is a very, even though we've had peace for like 2 decades, it's still a very politically fragile place. And I saw some people just throwing free words around, oh, we can't go back to war. And I just want to caution people with that kind of language and that kind of attitude that it's very dangerous to, one, think that way, two, to even verbalize that. Anybody who is opposed to an action or a decision, you have to find a way to use our existing democratic institutions for dissent. It's just what it is. And we should not tolerate any kind of political extremism that tries to create a situation for conflict in Sierra Leone. I believe that if the people of Sierra Leone, in spite of what's happened today, want a new government, want to vote in a new government in June, that they will vote in a new government. No amount of like gerrymandering, recounting, upcounting, undercounting. If people are not want today, if people truly do not want this government, and that is the will of the people, this government will not be in power in June, in July, or in August. It means that maybe, like, you know, it's an uphill climb for the opposition. They now have to do more. They have to get their shit together. But, you know, this is what it is to be in African politics. It's messy. But at the end of the day, we've seen in America where their democracy was supposed to be the model for the world. We saw what happened there. So, and we see what's still happening. Like, democracy is a process. It's really a process. Not to one day business, not to one government ruling, not to one court ruling. It's a process. And the country and the government still belongs to the people of Sierra Leone. I know that, like, when we elect people, people kind of feel like you stop having power. You don't stop having power because you've elected a new government. If you care about the issues and you stay involved and you stay invested, there are still ways and means for you to peacefully and responsibly participate in governance in a way where you can make good trouble. democracy, governments are not easy. And let's be honest, like, let's be really, really honest, right? How many people's lives are going to change if you, with a watch, is your life going to change if APC comes to power tomorrow? Do you really believe that you're going to have better health care when APC comes to power? Do you believe that you'll have more jobs, opportunities? And I'm not talking about the people that we get fumbled inside, so then get expectations, say, we APC kind of power, then get forgets their own because of family ties. I'm talking about how many everyday Sierra Leoneans truly can say that when leadership changes hands in Sierra Leone, you are better off. How many people can really say that? I can't say that. And I know people in SLPP and people in APC. No, I mean, like, yeah, I cannot tell you that, like, who's in power, you know, positively or negatively, like, impacts my life. I feel like there's a lack of governance, if anything, a lack of leadership. Like I said, I came from Freetown, and when I was in Freetown, I just felt like nobody was in charge. Like, I didn't feel like the presence of any government. You know, like when you go in a country, like law and order in the country, so you feel say like somebody they in control, or even if there isn't a physical person in control, there are processes that are going on from start to finish, like team and day in order. So like you wait from where you reach the country self, from where you go in a better country, even the way how people when they cross the streets, they make you know say you don't reach a better country. Even the way how people cross the streets, and from how people when they walk on the streets, wait and call, now you don't know if this is a better country. But let's be really, really honest. Let's be really, really honest, you guys. When was the last time you were in Sierra Leone, any part of Sierra Leone, and you looked to your left and you looked to your right and you said, I am so proud of what's going on around me? That, you know what, this country looks like it's moving forward. When was it, like, just forget about your political affiliations right now. When was the last time something happened in Sierra Leone and you were like, wow, this is amazing. I am so proud. Look at all these people who are benefiting. Look at all this growth. Look at all this opportunity. Heck, look where it clean. Look where it clean. When was the last time you looked around in Sierra Leone and said, man, this place is so clean. This place is so orderly. This place is so decent. All these talk they talk. Sierra Leone is still bottom 10 least developed countries in the entire world. Whether APC didn't power or SLPP didn't power, that is where we are. And if you're telling me that when you look at these political parties, you see like evidence that, like, yeah, better they than fine. The only thing that I see in Sierra Leone that gives me hope, truly, now waiting individual Sierra Leoneans and they do for themselves on their own. For themselves and on their own, not to anything with the governments they do. So if you're here and like you feel like, oh, this government or the one we get for Can, they have it figured out, that's on you. But when we look around, The only thing that makes me proud of being a Sierra Leonean is what individual Sierra Leoneans are doing, their individual accomplishments, which isn't because of any relationship we get with government or because government give them the small. Now, waiting individuals then they do, waiting they don't build, waiting they don't create for themselves, things they people they don't they struggle for do say on their own. That's what gives me hope. And I will point to nobody or no government or nothing. I will say, yeah, you know, this thing gives me hope. So, yeah, I don't want people to be all extremist with it, with the language and the rhetoric, because it doesn't help us. If you are a person who really cares for Sierra Leone, no kind of extremist language will help you. We cannot be extremist with our language. So yeah, does this mean that the upcoming elections are going to be easy for the opposition? Nope. Does it mean that it's a foregone conclusion that SLPP will win? Nope. Does it give them an advantage? Yep. Is it the similar kind of advantage that the previous government had going into the 2018 election? Yep. These are the facts. Did we expect the judiciary to rule against the sitting government? Nope. Now it's country. You get mine. The most important thing for me right now, I don't like to anybody, not to whether they win the election. The most important thing for we, and I talk about the one that some people in the way they're not being unborn the time where they walk kind of country. I wasn't very old, but I was old enough. And for the one that we want for joke, for this war business, for me, I'm like, yeah, that's unacceptable. There are certain jokes that we can't make at all. The most important thing between now and in the next 12 months, Nafole, we get peace and stability. Because with peace day, you can live to talk another day. You can live to advocate another day. You can live to agitate another day. But with peace no day, nothing no day. Nothing. You might think things are bad now, but trust me, for those of us who are old enough to have experienced conflict in Sierra Leone, compared to what could come if we allow ourselves to be pushed into extremist language, Salone right now are heavy. If we allow ourselves to go down to the level of violence and conflict, which we'll get right now, would compare to what could happen, go be heaven. So I'm pleading with anyone who's watching, who's feeling like they lost a battle, or this is against them, this is that, all of that, for say, yeah, what goes around comes around. Truly. What goes around comes around. And we've seen it before, and we'll see it again, unfortunately. So today, maybe you feel like you lost, but back in 2017, you guys were winning. In a marble system. Marble system go be cheaper. Marble system go be cheaper. You don't need for print nothing. Now by color. So yeah, I mean, I just want to tell people to continue to engage with governance in Sierra Leone. Continue to speak out against the things that bother you. Do so peacefully. Like, use your voice. Use your voice. Use your voice. Use your voice. Um, use your voice. Continue to use your voice, because sometimes that's all you have, but it's still having something. So use your voice. Sorry. Again, like, I know it's not happening. I say anything I can't live, me no say catch. Maybe somebody's talking about me. Anyways, so yeah, that's it really. I just wanted to say democracy is not dead in Sierra Leone. It's a process, and sometimes the process is like teething and it's more painful. Other times it's smoother sailing. If you've been following Sierra Leone's, Salone, need to use your voice. Yeah, you can use your voice in Salone. I know some people I feel like will say there's a way to use your voice that isn't going to get you in trouble. The problem is people want to be reckless about how they use their voice. That's the problem. I mean, I've been using my voice, then don't lock me up yet. maybe me tend to come, but I'm still here. The thing is, people want to be able to like say all kind of like extremist stuff, but you still, yeah. Usman, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can log off. I don't owe you any kind of narrative that is for your satisfaction. Yeah, I did Ghana can go Salone. They can always evoke me passports. Sir, as soon as I get off this, I'm gonna block you. It's so easy for me. I'm blocking you. Yeah, I mean, if Salone government want for take me passports, and can take me passports. If like really they care, I don't think anybody cares about what I'm saying or what I'm doing. Because I'm not threatening to like overthrow anybody in government. I have no interest in that. I'm not trying to manipulate the public. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Dinner. Anyways, I just wanted to say, don't give up on Sierra Leone. Don't give up on Sierra Leone. Like, just because things don't go away doesn't mean that you give up on the system. You have to stay invested. You have to stay engaged. On that note, thank you for watching. As always, I love you guys. See you tomorrow.